what's going on, y'all? T-Bob here.
And Jake as well.
And you're about to watch a little OTB LSU.
We're going to give you all the latest, greatest between LSU football, baseball, women's basketball, softball, and everything in between.
Bottom line, if you want to talk Tigers, keep it locked, subscribe, like it, and we hope you enjoy it. It is hard to fathom a more different offense than what Mississippi State ran last year to what they are running this year. Like, it's not like when you said they ran the ball a lot, I was assuming it was like, because Kevin Barbe, he's a very effective thrower in terms of OC, right, from App State and everything. So when you told me they ran the ball a lot, I was like, okay, it's probably like how Tennessee runs the ball a lot, or how Ole Miss runs the ball a lot, right? These spread concepts, these super spread concepts that kind of build into light boxes and you run it that way. No, I mean, technically they're in the gun a lot of time in the spread here, but this is a traditional-ass 60-40, even in this Arizona game, like 65-35 rush to pass attack.
Yeah.
Like it is a, instead of just moving to a new country, like Will Rogers moved to the opposite pole. We're talking like from the North Pole to the South Pole, from throwing it 70,000 times a game to what he throw it 17 against Arizona. I think it might have been the final count, like 13-17. And it is. So I was, first off, just on a pure philosophical standpoint. I mean, they're already running it on 3rd and 6. They're running zone on 3rd and 6. What?
I know.
It's it's an interesting choice, Jake, because I don't know that they have the guys up front to want to do this.
Yeah, they graded out incredibly poor. I think we talked about that yesterday.
They're bad. They're bad.
A little bit.
And Arizona State's D-line looked tiny. And those offensive linemen did not look very good.
So I mean, to T's point, they're basically dotting the I, but just at a pistol a lot. Like they'll get in pistol, which is basically the I formation, and they're just running like stretch lead. Which, okay, Mississippi State running stretch lead, sure. And we talked about this all season, and everyone who covers Mississippi State tried to like hand wave us and like, oh, it's not going to be that, it's not going to be that. And we were really talking about them under center, but we were also talking about them being a run-first team, and nobody really wanted to.
I didn't know that.
Come to terms with
if
that.
you told me that, I hand waved it away because I automatically assumed that there would be more running concepts, but it would still mainly be a team built through Will Rogers. And it's the opposite. It is built through Woody.
Well,
it's not even close.
No, it's not even close. And for whatever reason, like they kind of harped on the fact that under the center, it's not going to be under the center. Well, I mean, it's like sometimes, but even if they're not under the center, like they're going to have under the center principles.
Yes.
Like pistol is just your quarterback's heels are at 5, but your running back's still at 7.5 with his toes. And the only thing that's different is the quarterback's not, a couple yards up. That's about the only difference. But yeah, I mean, it's wholesale changes. I mean, you will see them run same side power. They had the 2-back formation tee as like the 4th play of the game against Arizona, where you had 2 backs in the backfield and you had the back on the right of Will Rogers go to the backside and cut off on a counter run.
Yep, saw it.
And the running back got the counter coming across the formation. So they are running gap scheme. They're running stretch lead. They used to be at best, zone team, inside and outside zone, and then they would throw a swing pass, and they kind of considered that a run. So, yeah, it's completely different.
No, it is a traditional ass running attack like you're talking about. And they really seem to rely on Woody finding those creases, right? Like you said, let him make this offensive line right. And it worked all right against Arizona. I mean, that was a nice win. I come away from that game not overly impressed with Arizona. I also see a Jaden Laura that made a ton of mistakes early on, turning the ball over, and yet still almost found a way to win that game. It just feels, I don't know, man. I come away from this, and I've been wrong about a lot lately, but I haven't watched a lot of stuff I've been wrong about. I haven't watched the film as closely as what I watched last night.
Yeah.
And I don't feel good for Mississippi State for the rest of the season. They are running a scheme which is super talent dependent. Talk about this all the time, right? Yeah. If you want to run one of these traditional ass rushing attacks, that's fine, but you better have some dogs because like it's harder and harder. Now they do some interesting things formationally, certainly, like you said, and what they'll run, counter, and everything out of that maybe could confuse LSU and lead to some big runs. And LSU's been susceptible, right? We've seen that. But I don't know, man. On a game-to-game, week-to-week, play-to-play basis, this is a scheme that's going to rely on just your guys being able to block theirs. And you can do that against Arizona. Like I said, Arizona's front seven looked tiny and not strong and pretty slow. I could not fathom, Jake, that they would come out and try to attack LSU in the same way, especially when LSU's look susceptible to the pass. But I don't know. They're not going to change their offense week to week.
I actually think they're going to see some of those run fits against Grambling last week, and they're going to try.
Yeah,
I would assume that they're going to try because LSU did have a problem fitting up the run. And again, like, you look at the opponent and it's Grambling. It's like, how's that happening? Well, anybody could have made the runs that they made. I'm not trying to be disrespectful to them, but when you're not sound in the run game, when you don't fit things the right way, it doesn't really matter who you have running the football. Grambling has good enough players to find that, right? It's not hard to find a player that can run to daylight. And so Mississippi State's going to see that on tape.
Yeah.
And they are going to say, you know what? We don't have advantages against Wingo and Smith, but we have advantages because they don't know how to fit it. And we're going to try to run it at them until they show us that they have learned how to fit these runs.
Yeah, the problem is it's like, yes, it was pretty bad against Grambling, but it was also pretty good for the most part until everything broke in the second half. It was pretty good against a far superior Florida State.
And running back in Benson.
You watch, it's so interesting to watch this film from last night because it really does remind you kind of what a more normal college football team looks like. And it also kind of reinforces just how good Florida State is and by extension, like how good LSU is. Like, I don't know, man. I saw Mason Smith that definitely struggled early on last game, but one that started to find his way. I think Mekhi Wingo remained great. I think they're going to have a lot of trouble with Savion Jones setting the edge on these runs.
Yeah.
And if you're the linebackers, you're the inside linebackers, congrats. This is great for you. This is the ultimate kind of old school football get right game. Just, trust your run principles and fill the hole, attack the hole. Like this is not going to be like going against Mike Norvell's offense with all these crazy pulling linemen every single direction, every play and jet sweeps action. Like it is. I don't know, man. Like I said, I think it is a scheme that is very talent dependent. And I would be so highly disappointed in this LSU defensive line if they did not dominate this game. I think Harold Perkins is going to have a massive game. I think the only thing that's going to hold Harold Perkins back from getting him for a sack of the season is if they just don't throw it enough and he doesn't have opportunity.
Yeah. I don't think they're going to, T. I really don't. I think they're going to try to establish the run. If this tape tells a story. And they were locked in a dogfight. It was an overtime game.
Yeah.
And they continued to do it. To T-Bob's point maybe about who they were going against with Arizona, Russell Davis, number 99 for Arizona, if anybody watched that game, he is their edge rusher. And not like their edge rusher like on third down, like, hey, come in, give us a spark, use speed. Like he's there every down.
He's trying to set the edge.
He's trying to set the edge. He is 6'2", 219 pounds.
6'2", 219. What's Savion Jones, 6'5", 250?
Yeah, like 219 pounds. Like, I played running back at 225 pounds.
And he was kind of big dog and 69 at times, the right tackle.
Isn't that like the main issue? Look, a lot of people, me and Mario were critical of Mississippi State coming into the season. I picked them to finish dead last in the West. We didn't know what the new offensive coordinator was going to be because, to your credit, it's very talent dependent that State doesn't have. Mike Leach was so good about scheming around that and designing up. They don't have that anymore. And that was my biggest issue with them coming into the year.
I hesitate to say spread because things like the triple option do this as well. And granted, a lot of spread principles are based on principles of the triple option in terms of, here's a bunch of tennis balls, what are you going to go after? It may be limiting in terms of ceiling, in terms of game control, but it also helps you to punch up. This is a style that feels more like, all right, let's square up. This is like Revolutionary War fighting. Like, you line up, we shoot. Okay, your turn while we reload muskets. It's shocking, though. No, it's still shocking to me because I don't feel like this is what App State ran last year. Like, Jake, I watched this film, and if I was an alien, I would think they didn't trust their quarterback. at all.
Yeah, and we're seeing right, and somebody that's as veteran as he is, that has like every record in the SEC record
Aaron
books.
Murray's records are safe.
It might be safe. God, he's so happy right now. He is doing a little dance. And they'll play 2 quarterbacks too.
Yeah, they put in Mike White because
From
they
old
love to run it so
Vanderbilt's
much.
old quarterback. And I was wondering, like, why did he go there? Like, that didn't make sense. He's behind Will Rogers. Well, he was probably told, hey, we're going to have some quarterback run, and you're going to be the guy. I mean, they did it early in the first quarter against Arizona. He's going to come in. He's going to run the midline option, and they want to run it with him. I mean, it is time and time again. And they're gonna have pullers. They're gonna have, but to T's point, there's not a lot of window dressing to the offense. At least there wasn't in the Arizona game.
No,
I mean, they'll motion a little bit, but they get set. They get set, then you know what the formation is, and there's not a lot of guys going across the formation. Again, you'll have guards pulling on power and counter, which we don't see from Mississippi State, certainly in a long time. But that's about it.
It's just your classic. The fullback is now just a tight end that maybe they bring in and he stands aside and then he leads. Of the 2 or 4, I don't know, man. I again, if it sounds like my jaw was on the floor, it's because it kind of was watching that game last night. It just seems like such an odd commitment of resources. I mean, it actually makes Will Rogers look bad to the point where I'm like, wow, maybe Will Rogers was always bad. I don't know, because it doesn't feel like the coach staff has any trust in him. So that's when Mississippi State is going to be on defense. I mean, Jake, I'm thinking about like who even flashed. I mean, Woody's good. The running back's very good.
Yes.
To be clear. I feel bad for him that he's going to be behind that offensive line, because if you gave him a great offensive line, like, he could dominate and win you some games. Number 5 was an okay receiver. But outside of that, I don't know that any offensive player like jumped off film. So I know the defense has not been good, but I firmly believe they're going to control the line of scrimmage, and they should. I mean, they should dominate this game. If they don't play well this game, then I am going to be very disheartened, because this feels like a doctor-prescribed get-right game for this defense right now.
I would agree with you there. Just watching the tape and going over it like you and I both did, you're going to have advantages on that side of the football. So you're going to have the talent advantage. You're going to have the individual matchup advantage, like even in some places where I feel like you've struggled. So if you don't get it right here, if you have some of the same issues that you had fitting the run like you did last game, then it is troublesome.
Yes.
And it is a little bit of worry, minus a little bit. Then you should be worried right now. And then when you look across the ball, we'll break down Mississippi State's defense, but I'm going to see if I can – there's like one play that I think gives a perfect example of what T-Bob's talking about with just everybody. Like Will Rogers, a quarterback that we have seen make so many plays in the SEC, now just does not look as comfortable. And that's hard. You've grown – like you were Bane. Like you were molded by this up-tempo, air raid offense, and that's who you are. Then all of a sudden, I mean, you're going to what we're watching on tape, and I can understand growing pains, even with a veteran quarterback.
I just don't. I mean, to me, it feels like a tight b-hole move from Zach Arnett, the entire thing. Like first-time coach, defensive-minded. I want to run the ball. I want to control the clock. An offense that is so averse to risk that it comes off as just toothless, as just averse of threat as well. So shocking stuff there. Wow, Jake. What incredible takes.
I mean, those guys, they're just the best.
I think so. And if you think so, again, hit the like button, subscribe, ring the bell so you get notifications when we post every single day here on OTB LSU.